Okay, review time. Here we go. A couple of things before we get into it, though. I have to mention, and you'll see in the very beginning, but it was 5. It was 5. I thought it was 4, but it was 4 in the morning when I got up to go for the shoot, and that's what I usually do. Is I have to get up at an early time to do all of these different things, and I have been doing that for a while. But anyway, it was 5 shots, not 4 shots. Changing the naming convention of the series, all of the series. Someone commenter mentioned in the past because they were confused by the title, which I could understand, and I just didn't have a way to come up with something else. But I let it marinate enough. Now I'm going to change the 1,000 round review series to just the 1,000 round series, and then 1,000 round review at the end of the 10 episodes. Let me know if that makes sense to you. I know it does make sense, and I had to think about it for a while, and I finally came up with something. So 1,000 round series, not 1,000 round review series, because I think it throws off a lot of people, and I'll probably have to go back retroactively and change all of those titles because I think that fits better, although I don't know about the thumbnails. I'll probably do it sometime. Anyway, and the last thing is the additional feature set that I didn't mention. A couple of things is the textured guide rod, spring rod. This has the same texture as the grip and all of the other parts. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know what that purpose is, and I don't know what logical application it serves. Let me know in the comments if you do know. I'm not sure if I really grasp why they do that. It's a nice touch, but I don't know if it has any practical application. And then the sights. The sights are a white dot and a U, which I think is pretty nice. There's no tritium or anything inside of it, but it works. So that's all. Enjoy the review. No outro. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow for the next review series. Next 1,000 round series, not review series. And until then, enjoy. This video is intended for educational and informational purposes only. All firearm handling shown is performed by trained individuals and controlled environment. Always follow the 4 rules of gun safety. Number 1, treat your firearm as if it's loaded. Number 2, never point a firearm at anything you do not intend to destroy. Number 3, keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Number 4, be sure of your target and what's beyond it. Comply with all local, state, and federal laws regarding firearms. Do not attempt to replicate any action seen in this video without proper training and safety measures. The creators assume no liability for misuse or unsafe practices. Pew review. That was only 4. No, was that 5? I can't keep track. No, that was 4. Huh. Sorry, that's my bad. I think I missed a couple of rounds. Stand by. No, that's right. Oh, that's wonderful. Welcome back to the 1,000 round review of the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro Comp OSP. I've been getting that naming convention wrong all shoot, and you think that I get it right, and then I go back to it, and yeah, it's a that's a whole thing. I'm so sorry. It's Pro Comp OSP, and so the comp is, of course, the port in the barrel. Comp would be just the opening here at the end of the barrel, not inside of the barrel. It's gonna be one of those days. Excuse me. I've got a condition where I produce phlegm when I speak, and my lungs, I have to cough it out, so that's why I've been clearing my lungs and my throat all year long, and I do apologize for that because I know it's distracting to some degree, and I've lowered the audio on that so you don't hear it. But okay, that was 4. That was 4 rounds. Okay, well, we'll do another 5 here in a minute, but that is a good indication of my experience with the accuracy shooting experience, which we'll go over later in the review of the Hellcat Pro Comp OSP. If you're new here to my channel, I do 10 episodes of 100 rounds per episode to 1,000 of a firearm, mostly pistols right now for the entire year, and then later on we're doing rifles and shotguns, PCCs, etc., and head-to-head comparisons, all that jazz. But for right now, it's going to be a series of 10 episodes, 1,000 rounds. Whenever I get a new firearm, I'll be doing the 10 episodes, 100 rounds apiece to 1,000 rounds, giving my review and impression on the firearm from my take after having shot all of that, and see what everybody else thinks, see what you think, and give your input and comments and feedback, and oh, that's wrong, but actually it's this way, and all that stuff that we like to contribute when we have a favorite gun, a least favorite gun, all the above. So that's my review process is going to be 3 cons, 3 pros, 3 pros, and nuances if there is any, along with my opinion and my take. I'm not an expert. I want to just go over that really quick. I love to shoot. I enjoy shooting. I'm not a competition shooter. I'd like to do competition at some point, even though I said I wouldn't way back in the day when I first started this channel. I know that I would improve my skills, and that's the only reason why I would do any sort of competition. I'm not looking to get into that competition space, but I do appreciate it. I have my biases in terms of what does work and what doesn't work based on my frame, my weight, my hand size, all of the characteristics of a person, and then the firearm coupled with that, those different characteristics and attributes will respond in a certain way to a certain extent, right? There's going to be some firearms that are everybody's going to be somewhat accurate with, more so than others, and I have some of those pistols which are on the opposite end of the spectrum from each other, and I will be shooting them and having fun doing so, and that's why I'm here doing this. Is I'm just enjoying the journey of shooting all of these firearms after having decades of experience, and I don't mean 2, I mean decades of experience of shooting and enjoying the hobby, the right, the sport, and the defense duty, all of the above. I've worked in and been in all those capacities. Okay, enough of that background, because if you've been here, you know me, you know what I do. So let's get started with the review, starting with the first con, and this is an opinion because it's not really based around a fact, although it will be later on, and I'll tell you what I mean by that, and that is the port. The first con is the port, and this is my take. I don't feel like the port had a significant effect, and there's been a lot of other reviewers and people that have shot the firearm and also have a more well-rounded review and opinion, more so than me, because oh, there's a bird on top of my target. Because I wouldn't shoot the bird, by the way. They have shot the standard version of the Hellcat Pro, or the just regular Hellcat. I haven't done so yet, but I am going to do that at some point. So for right now, because of my experience of other comped ported firearms, pistols, I notice that they're a little bit leveler and quicker to zero firing. You know, the shooting experience is going to be that which is more indicative of having that comp or that port at the end. And I did notice it with, like, say, the P365 or the Shadow System CR920 XP. They feel very flat, and they were very enjoyable in terms of returning to zero. But I just don't feel that this Hellcat Pro Comp OSP had that. And that, to me, just seems like a gimmick. So until I get that standard version where I can shoot there's the pro version where I can shoot them both head to head and do a one-to-one comparison. I'm going to say this is my take, right? This is what I think and how I feel based upon my previous experiences with other micro compact, we'll talk about that also, micro compact 9mm pistols, is that I just don't feel that that port does anything. I think it's a gimmick. That's my take. Let me know what you think too, because it's not a... Right, and it's not like a feature set where you have the texture, you don't have texture, because that's an obvious negative for me. But this just feels like that. Okay, enough of that first con. Second con is the beaver tail. By the way, these cons were hard to find because there's a lot good with this pistol, as well as the Echelon, the Springfield Armory Echelon comp, which is a marvel to shoot, and I really enjoyed that. But we'll get to the nuances in a second, so pause on that comment, because I do love the platform and enjoy everything about it, but there's a caveat to that. The beaver tail, so the next con, I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but follow me. The beaver tail is the next con number 2. I just feel that it could be a little bit longer. I didn't have a problem with any slide bite necessarily, but somebody with bigger mitts could get that significant slide bite. So while it's not a problem, it wasn't a problem, I do notice that it's a little small. And when I'm shooting, and I have had instances where I got a little high up purchase on the firearm that I did get some slide bite. Didn't hurt, you notice some marks, right? So that beaver tail could have been a little bit longer. Just a nitpick, not really a negative, didn't take away from the firearm and everything that it has. So that second con is subjective to me, just like the port is. So again, it was hard to find these cons because it's such a good platform. But yeah, that con number 2 is that beaver tail. And then con number 3 is something that is another personal thing, and that's the trigger guard. The trigger guard is very smooth, and I like to have like the Glock where it's indented. It has that cave in the front, and it's just a little bit of texturing where I can, because I rest my index finger when I shoot there just to get more skin on the firearm, more control on the firearm, rather than having it the traditional way, which everybody shoots with the index finger underneath the trigger guard. I put it out here in the front, and then I place the middle finger underneath, which also that undercut there underneath is also something that I like to have. And the Springfield Armory Echelon had that. It had a cutout, a cave in the front of the trigger guard, and a cave under on the bottom of the trigger guard with texture, with this type of texture underneath, so you could really grab onto it like so. So this is missing that. Not a big deal, just a personal preference. I wish it had that on there. It's just a bonus. I wouldn't say it's a nuance because it's something that I actively work with when I shoot. So it's a really nice to have, not a need. It's just nice, and I would ding it for that. So those are the cons. I know those are very subjective, nitpicky. They are not at all objective, because the platform, it is so much better than, say, like the XD that was before it, that whole series of firearms. One second, I'll keep talking. The series of firearms that was very nice, but also had its flaws. So this Hellcat series is very, very nice. It has so many great benefits and positives to it that it was hard to pick out those cons. So given those cons, let's go to the positives now. The pro number 1 for me, texture. You know that I like the texture. I really do appreciate going all the way up to the slide, having little gas pedal texturing, you know, even if it's just, this one is indented so you can't see it, but you can feel it. It's not flat, it's got a little cave in, so it's like someone took a shovel and just shoveled out a little indent right there. And the same thing on the other side is a little indent in, so you can rest your finger on there, which is very nice. Another cave in here for the up to the slide with this part where you rest the meaty part of your trigger finger and then also your thumb. Texture here on the grip goes all the way around. It has a couple of these little ridges for your fingers to rest inside of. The magazine, well, it's not flared out, but I like this little cut here, so it's not part of the texturing, so I'll save that for the feature Did I say feature set? Yeah, I did say feature set. A little cutout here, but yeah, the texture goes all the way around 360 degrees. So when you're shooting, it's not going anywhere. And the texturing too is a, I'd say 250, maybe close to 300 grit, like sandpaper, and it's very, very grippy. It's not too aggressive and not too offensive. It's not going to hurt you, not going to cause any bleeding, but it is very, very nice. So that is wonderful in terms of that texture to help with that grip of the pistol. And with these micro compacts, they're going to be nice and grippy and have that good home feeling because of the hyper ultra thin profile of the firearm. So that is the first pro with the Hellcat Comp OSP. Second pro is the feature set. Now the feature set includes things like the Picatinny, having a full Picatinny, although this one doesn't. It has just enough for, a various amount of lights to go on the TLR 7X sub and all that stuff, and then Surefire, of course. It has the optics cut with the Torx head screws, which me, I also like that, because if you get hex head, then you have a tendency to strip it, and I have done that with some pistols. So that Torx gives a lot more confidence when you're torquing. It has a little round window to see when there's a round indicator, basically. The port, of course, we talked about that, but that's not really a positive, but that's part of the feature set it comes with, so that's nice. The ambidextrous controls, which it doesn't have that, which I do like, but I know for some people that's kind of wish they had that because they're left-handed or they like to have that ability. Magazine well, so this part I think it's part of the feature set, how it has that cutout for these standard mags to go in. It does, goes flush, and then it has an extended base plate. Of course it sticks out, but that's neither here nor there, but it sticks out less because I don't want to say it sticks out less because it's still an extended base plate. It's just nice that it has that. So that is part of the feature set. And then the last pro, that was pro number 2. The last pro is EDC carry and just the overall package that I got for this firearm, which was also offered with the Springfield Armory Echelon comp, and that was the gear up package, where it comes with the soft case, which is, that's standard. It's not really necessarily a pro, but anyway, it came with 5 magazines, and then it also came with a Viridian RX11. I'll probably correct that here. Green dot. And I didn't put that on as I wanted to shoot. I don't shoot these, with too many modifications. I do have that gas pedal for the SIG P320, but that's another review. Anyway, it came with all of these things, and it was a price of $815. So for all of that, you can get the shadow systems, which I think it was around 1,000. The shadow systems was up there, but it only came with so many magazines, and it did come with optics cut and all that stuff. But this comes with 5 magazines, and it's potentially you can get 5 17-round magazines or 5 15-round magazines for the price of one of the other micro compacts. So that offering from Springfield Armory for this Hellcat is amazing, and they do that with, I think, all the different versions of the Hellcat. So that's pro number 3, is the entire package, the EDC gear up package. Not the EDC gear up package, but I just like calling it that because you're getting so many other options with that. So let's go into the nuance. Nuances would be the price. That price is interesting. I mean, it's right around the ballpark of where all of these are going to be, and it's the base model 723 MSRP, which you can find deals elsewhere, but then also $815 for the gear up package. It comes with 2 magazines, so it comes with an additional 3 with the gear up. So, and then the Viridian green dot. So I think that gear up package is very, very economical and very, very nice. So that's a nuanced take, not a positive. It's just something that you can option to get into. The trigger is nuance number 2. I do like it, but I also have some issues with it. And that's because of the reset. The reset is a little further out there than I would like halfway too far. I would have liked it to be right here. Instead, it's out there. So you can hear it. It's just still a little too far out there. Although I do like the shooting experience because it's about a 5.5 to 6 pound trigger, and that to me is very, very nice for an EDC. I would rather have that on my EDC instead of having a race trigger for your competition pistol. So the last nuance is that shooting experience. I just couldn't get a good beat on it, and that created some frustration. Although it is me, I don't know if it's the ammo, I don't know if it's the pistol, but I had the same issue with the see that wasn't on, with the echelon, and I felt like I was on target and then I wasn't. And so yeah, I'm way off to the right, and that's almost in the middle. That shooting experience is nuanced, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad shooting gun. It's just that I don't know, I have to have gotten used to it, and I didn't after 1,000 rounds, just like the echelon. So that may be just me and the relationship I have with Springfield Armory and their pistols so far. We'll see with the other ones what happens with that. But excuse me, that is the last nuance. My take for this pistol is it's definitely something not for beginners. None of these micro compacts are for beginners, although I think you can shoot them together with the Glock 19 RXM from Ruger, the Ross Martin AREX Delta M. Anyway, this is something that you could definitely carry as an EDC, and I would recommend it for that carry. You have other options, so don't settle for this right away, but definitely look at it. I think that it's got tons and tons of potential, and it shoots very well. It's very comfortable, very, very chic and slim to your frame, so it will fit most people. I just feel that, you know, my experience with it has just been, it's been definitely nuanced because I just couldn't get it beat on it. So my take is, you know, looking at it objectively, it's a great firearm for duty. I guess you could carry it for duty. I don't know. You probably want something with a little bit more capacity, but it's got all the feature set too. So not sure if any of these micro compacts you can use as a duty, but for a new shooter, shoot it with a plethora of other firearms together. Get your rudiments and fundamentals first with a Glock 19, the RXM, and then have this later on. Not later on, but maybe if you have been shooting, or if you're brand new to it, definitely just have it off to the side somewhere and bring it in once you've built those fundamentals to a T. So that is something that I think you should just. It's another one of those pistols where you need to go out and test it, just like any of these firearms, and it's not something that I would get right away because it has a snap to it. It has a snap, and it's not confident in that aspect where I would say, yeah, it's definitely something you could just go and get right away. So, any case, that's my take. That's my 1,000 round review. I did really enjoy it, just like the Echelon. It just had that weird space for me that I just couldn't catch a good beat with. So in any case, that's all for today. Come back for the next review series. Thank you so much for being here. All of you have been super awesome. We'll talk more about that micro compact, subcompact, compact, and all these different naming conventions and setups for firearms that I'm kind of curious about. I don't know why they decided to go with that naming convention, but I'll have to make a short or a separate video on that, and we'll get your input. So again, thank you so much. This was awesome. I appreciate all of you for being here. Make sure that you pick up your brass and you aim for center mass. If you like getting funky, we can get down with it.